YouTube.
All right. Ta-da! We finally made it.
Woo!
Yay! So, discussion for Rhythm of War. And I have to say that the first thing that I thought when I finished the book was, thank God I don't have another 1,000-page plus book on my TBR. Like, oh, I'm so glad to not have the big chunk anymore. It's gone. I did it. It's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's definitely a relief to like be done.
Yes.
Especially on your like first time through kind of deal. It was definitely like I knew what I was getting into the second time when I reread everything. So
yeah. So Rhythm of War stressed me out.
Oh no.
Stress, so much stress. But it was so good.
It was. I thought it was. I definitely have some critiques, and this was not as fresh in my mind as I wanted it to be because I had anticipated like rereading the book with y'all. Because I've now this is the first book that I've only read one time for our discussions, but life was busy and we know that already. So
yeah,
I was watching a few people's like review videos in the last like hour to catch myself back up. But I think I got everything straight in my head, and I did have a few issues with some of the pacing, but like the characters that we did actually get a lot of page time with and like all of that, I loved so much, and it was a beautiful book as always. Expect nothing less from Brando Sando at this point, but yes, I did love this
spoilers
book.
be damned. Yes, Catherine.
I
Oh,
did not. Oh well, are you sure? It might be. I mean, definitely stay and hang out with us. We'll try to go in chronological order. So if you want to hop off when you stop knowing things, that's a good thing.
The thing is, I don't know exactly where 77% is, but I know that the last stretch that I had there, I was like, oh my God, I really, like, I could almost go into the discussion right now because now he's just setting up the next book. You know, like we're doing the recap and then we're setting up the larger Cosmere things that are happening. And
also, I just want to like take a second. Aren't the end papers so beautiful, so beautiful? I love them so much. And they're just like such art. Anyways, that's all.
Yes, dude. Okay. Okay. Catherine.
Maybe go away and watch this later.
No. I don't want you to go away, but God. Oh God.
You're in for it.
Okay. Man, okay. So yes, the end paper. I loved the illustrations in this one, getting to see the Spren.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. So I think we could go in kind of chronological order. That way we don't verge into too many spoilers immediately for our single viewer at this point. But also, this is not fresh in my brain, so I might need you to like get us going. But
yeah, that's fine.
I will say, I think like just a favorite part of this book. I do love Kaladin with my whole heart, and I love the amount of time we spent with him, and I like just the exploration of all of his mental health issues that we got to like really deep dive into. And I felt that was like nice and accurate and all that. To quote Daniel Green's review I just watched, he was like, a lot of heroes in these books that deal with like anxiety and depression will have their moment, and then they'll just never have to deal with it again, which is not accurate to how people actually suffering with those issues are. So I enjoyed that exploration. And also, Navani is a bomb, and I love her. And I think she's one of my new favorite characters after this book from the whole Stormlight archive. Oh, hi, dog. I just noticed the dog.
This is Bees. He thinks he's a lap dog, and I indulge him in that because he's a brat. Also, hang on. He's on top of my headphones.
Oh, no. Oh yeah, Catherine, I get that, like trying to stay up to finish it. But hey, it's good, and you'll appreciate the journey whenever you get there. So.
He's like the biggest baby. Seriously, bro. Go lay down somewhere. All right. Tried so hard to finish. 5 hours of sleep last night. Yeah, I do a lot better with the physical books too. And you are a friggin' champion, Catherine, because I know that you jumped in late on this anyway. You've read this like when did you start this? Like 3 weeks ago? Like you're on it.
Yeah, there's a lot. Not everybody's as insane of a reader as me, who read this whole book in like 7 days. But I also didn't sleep much, so it's fine.
I kept suffering this like sense of existential dread because this is the last.
Oh, you started
of
last
the books
Thursday
right now. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, yeah, that's awesome. You're doing great, lady.
But I felt so much anxiety at the fact that this is going to be the last Stormlight Archive book that we get for a while.
So you were both relieved that you have no more chunkers, but you're also scared that we don't have any more chunkers.
So at the end, I was very relieved to not have any more chunkers. But as I was progressing through the story and seeing how things were happening, I was like, he's not going to be able to make me happy at the end of this book and satisfied to wait another 2 to 3 years. It's not going to happen. I will say
I expect it'll
off.
Yeah, I think that especially the end of this book is just such setup for the 5th book, which I'm mildly terrified about how that's going to go. But we can theorize at the end of this. But yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be like obviously the biggest book that has been written yet, so it's just going to be huge. And second of all, I feel like he's going to take the full 3 years to like get everything sorted because he freaking needs to get us the 4th book from Era 2, which I'm still angry that it wasn't out when I read it the first time.
Man.
So hopefully, so as long as we get that first, I'll have something to hold me over till this guy or till book 5.
Right. Yeah. So like I'm excited to move into Mistborn 2, which is what we are starting on next with the Sanderfan read-along stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely was afraid of this book because it was like I have to say goodbye to these characters for a little while after I'm finished with this book. Like unless I want to start back at the beginning, and I just have other shit I need to read. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of that. I think that's about all I have as far as like general impressions. So then at the start of this book, we are gonna take a look at the beginning because I've been here for a while too.
I did give this a 5 out of 5 just for rating purposes, but
yeah. Well, me too. I feel like it's probably okay. Yeah. So then let's do it the way that we've done it before and just like maybe go character by character.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
The book starts with Navani. Do you want to start with her? She has a humongo chunk of the book, or do you want to like round out to her towards the end?
I'm cool to start with Navani. I have to say that whenever I realized that this was going to be a Navani book, I was a little bit like, man, that's not who I want to talk to right now. But I fucking love her.
Yes. So it's technically not Navani's book, but I do love her, yes.
It's not her book, but like when I saw that she was going to have such a huge part in it, I was kind of like, yes. And then especially when and I don't think this is too spoilery because it happens like right there in part 1, but Dalinar heads off, you know, like he's doing his own thing. Yeah. And then Navani is here with this tower, you know, by herself. And I was like, okay, this is going to be boring, but it wasn't boring at all. I was really excited to see how much she was able to how much new knowledge it takes a lot to get to book 4 of thousands of pages, and then have a character introduce such pivotal new knowledge about the magic system.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
Navani, I like that we first of all got like a big like viewpoint of her marriage with Galavar and how it wasn't all like
Yes.
rainbows and butterflies like everyone expected. There was definitely like abusive aspects of that relationship, and there was drama, and Galavar wasn't the glorious king that we've been told he was for the books leading up to this. So I thought that was just like very nice and look to her actual like background as a character.
Right.
And then I just loved, speaking of how much she was basically like in this role of a scholar, of an engineer, and just basically, like you were saying, giving so much more depth to the magic system and solving a lot of the problems that we as readers were like, what the heck is actually going on? We don't have all the information. She was like, neither do I, but we're going to find out through the course of this book.
Yes. And go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, some aspects of her like discovery and stuff were driven like through self-preservation because the tower was invaded and all that. But at the same time, it was still just like a beautiful thing to see, and I really enjoyed like her character being the one in this role, which I didn't expect much out of her. I was like, oh, Navani, we don't know a lot about her, but then she's such an awesome person. Love her so much now.
Yeah. For sure. And I like how, because I read Dawn Shard, and coming off of Dawn Shard, we find that Navani's team is actually developing these. We get to watch them. Yeah, we get to watch them start creating these cutting edge fabrials that we heard about all the way back in book 1. Whenever Dalinar is like thinking of her, and he's like, yeah, she does fancy stuff with fabrials and things, and it was like, oh, she invented the fireplace. That's pretty cool. But no, actually, she's building flying machines now. So
yeah,
that was a lot of fun. I liked that a lot. I liked that we got to see her her gray morality a little more. And kind of with that exploration of her relationship with Gavilar, and seeing that, like, yeah, she did pick him because he was powerful and because he was the king, and like, yeah, her motivations were kind of fierce, and then to see her have to struggle with that whenever it comes to the rub in the tower, I was like, ooh, and we don't actually know if Navani is strong enough to walk away from all this temptation that she's getting.
Yes. Catherine's point is really good. It's like, yes, we enjoyed, because she was just a one-dimensional character, and her fully rounded out.
Yes.
That was super awesome. In terms of the novellas, they're good at like kind of taking tangential storylines. Like in the first one, you get a lot about Lift, which I didn't really like her character very much until I read that, because I was like, oh, she's not just some weird child who slides around on her knees eating food. Like, she actually has more to her. And in Dawn Shard, if I remember correctly, we get to see a character we see in an interlude somewhere else go on a whole like Risen. Sorry,
yes.
And also, Lopen is there, and he's just hilarious. But Risen is going on this whole quest line, and based on like a request and stuff from Navani, and I think that'll come more into play, like the thing they discover in that book more in the 5th and the latter half of the series. But it's which I guess they find a Dawn Shard, but like I don't really know what that means yet because we don't have a lot of information.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that's a lot of setup for definitely later down the line. Yeah. But mainly in Dawn Shard, the thing that connects with Rhythm of War is just the fact that these fabrials are being engineered. I don't know how much more we can talk about Navani without entering into spoilery territory.
Well, I think we can go spoilers.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. This is
okay.
People should know this at this point, and Catherine's accepted her fate. So
okay. Well, I just wanted to clarify. I I cried so much at the relationship that she ended up having with Raboniel.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
so interesting.
yeah. I didn't cry, but I also don't not an easy crier. I don't know about you, but like I definitely like felt it though in my soul with their relationship between her and oh yeah, Catherine, woohoo, welcome to the party. No, I thought the whole like their whole dynamic was so interesting because she and Raboniel were clearly enemies, but and there was just like we got to see Navani be like a little trickster and trying to still do her research and figure out a solution while um keeping herself and her team alive, who were kind of under lock and key and guard from the singers. Is that what they're called? The singers?
Yeah.
The Parshendi are now some of them are singers. I still we'll talk about the Parshendi stuff in a minute, I imagine. But anyways, I did love their like dynamic that we got, and it was very satisfying the way it wrapped up. That I don't remember the exact details for at the moment, but I was very satisfied.
So, of course, the thing for me that I liked seeing play out between them was they both had an understanding of the other person's humanity, while also having a lot of respect for one another, and kind of being they were friends, but they were friends in like a Professor Xavier Magneto kind of way. And it was really cool. And then to see them share the grief of losing a child was like, oh my God, like you two are just like same walks of life, just different sides of the war.
Yes, exactly. That was very, very, very well done, Brendo.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. So I'm looking at the part 1 perspectives here. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Navani? Oh, well,
I think I'll think of more things as we continue talking, but like that's my initial like statements on her. I know that she does a lot and is involved in a lot of tangential storylines. Like she and Kaladin are having to like work together to save the tower, but so I imagine she'll come up.
That I enjoyed that. I liked seeing Kaladin kind of warm up to Navani a little bit.
Yes, but I guess a major thing we need to talk about with Navani before we move on is how she's now bonded with the tower spread.
Yes, and I was going to say, Catherine, that's a good point, because that comes into play very much. That they're working together with these lights, and I also want to ask, what did you think about the explanation for the explosion in the laboratory?
Oh, do I remember what that was? I honestly don't know if I remember.
So it was like the void light mixing with not life light, honor light. What is it? Like storm light. Jesus. Okay.
So, and one of the things I was watching to review this, I was watching the 17th Shard guy do his like overall spoilers, most crazy things out of the book, and one of the things was like how we are introduced to like 7 total types of light, not just storm light now, and so all of those have an anti or void version of the light. I'm still very confused on that, but so in terms of in terms of the reaction to the explosion in the lab. Still confused. I really needed to read this book again before we had this discussion, because I do this thing where I just read as fast as humanly possible, and I do miss some things, but I imagine it'll continue to like play into the war and the things, all these new fancy lights that exist all of a sudden that we weren't aware about.
I found that with that particular scene, when Navani's like, oh, like Epiphany, this is what happened in
I think that's the honor light or whatever
storm light and whatever the warped light is. So like
I think that's the void light.
So there ends up being void light, and then anti-void light, and then life light, and then tower light, and then I'm trying to think what the warped light that you're talking about might
We're gonna move my computer closer to me. I'll
So
sitting
let's
on
see.
my
I
bed.
don't know that it has been explained, but I thought it was stormlight and whatever the warped light is. So the warped light is something else. You end up with like a whole new encyclopedia of lights and how these things work, and it comes from uh, this time that Navani spends in this room sequestered by herself, and so she, you know,
I got the list up. We need to want to go place. So the pure lights are stormlight, void light, and life light. The hybrid lights are tower light, war light, and then the combination of odium and cultivation. And then the anti-lights are anti-void light, anti-storm light, and there is some other anti-investiture things. I'm on the 17th Shards website, clearly. I don't know what a lot of this means yet in terms, but I imagine it's it'll all of this stuff playing with the investiture, anti-investiture, and the way the magic works will blow our minds before we're done with this series.
yeah. Well, and I'm sure the thing is, I'm sure that it's still kind of blowing Brandon's mind, you know, like because he's still developing all this stuff.
Yeah. So I think that one, the warp light. I think the void light, the warping light was the one that was odium and the other one, so odium and cultivation. That's what I think it is.
That's the I don't think that actually gets fully explored in this book.
Yeah, we're not done with that
particular light. Yeah, but I did think that the epiphany that she had about like why the lab blew up, that was I disliked that was so far buried in the takeover at Urithiru. That was one thing that I remember as I was reading it. I was like, man, he even acknowledges it in like a little bit of a fourth wall kind of way. Because Navani's like, and the fact that the tower was being taken over, I completely forgot about the fact that this room exploded. And it's not necessarily that I don't think that's believable. It's just that I would have liked to have seen the two T's depart a little more.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense.
That was definitely a thought that I had whenever that all came to be. It was like, oh, okay, this is just going to turn into a quick little information dump so that we could explore the light stuff later. It's like, cool, but damn it.
Yeah. So on to Navani bonding with the tower. So I was really hoping the whole time that it would be the guy from Bridge 4 who
Relaine?
Yeah, Relaine. I just Relaine or something like that, what the name is. Anyways, I was really hoping it would be him just because he was like struggling to bond. But I imagine that he'll have a bonding that happens at some point. Or did one happen and I forgot about it already? But
so it's kind of it sort of touches on it there at the end.
But the moral of the story is I do think it's quite cool that Navani, I think, is now also a bondsmith, because that's what they're called when they bond with like the greater beings or something like that. And I think that'll have big implications for like her relationship with Dalinar, and then also because Dalinar is also a bondsmith. We don't see very much of him in this book, but and then just terms of her like forward motion, because the tower is a sassy being on its own, like I feel, and was very much reluctant to actually bond, but like it was a saving its own life, like final stroke of midnight kind of thing that it chose to do. So I think that'll be interesting just with the dynamic of Navani's character going forward and who she interacts with and how they interact and all that. So
don't you hate it when you do that? You're flipping through the book trying to see how many pages you have left, and you catch that one line. It's like, I did that with Mistborn, and it made me not want to finish the first book for like weeks.
Oh no.
I found out about it. Death. Anyway.
Oh, we'll have to talk about that. I imagine the character I'm thinking of here in a minute, because he does show up. But
that was really cool. I thought it was funny and relevant that Brandon Sanderson pointed out that like Navani and Dalinar clearly have relations with one another. But the tower light is actually a product of honor and cultivation having relations with one another. So she's a little weirded out by they're a little bit weirded out by the fact that
their bonds.
Their dad is now their yeah. I imagine it's strange. I mean, how could it not be?
Yes, that I just think it'll be interesting to like watch how that progresses going forward. So, with that, that's all I have to say about Navani. Which character is next?
Before we move on with Navani,
yes,
I have the best thing. The best thing was Journey Before Destination, you bastard! And it was like, yes, she did it. Go Navani.
That was very fun for sure.
I was like hopping.
Hey, you gotta have the joy where you can find it in these books. So
let's see. I was trying to remember who the bondsmith was that was being referred to in part 1. Ishar. You ran into him later. He's about as batshit crazy as the rest of them have been.
But he does do his cool like heralding thing, but he's also absolutely insane. So it's just very entertaining all around.
That all gets opened up pretty nicely there at the end. It's all that that's going to be a book 5 thing, I imagine. I hope. Jesus.
We're going to have a lot basically be wrapped up. And I feel like Brandon's going to take us real dark, unfortunately, by killing everybody again.
I'm afraid of that too, man. I love how you're like, again, because we both know. We're like, ah!
Yeah, so I don't think it's gonna be nice. I don't think he's gonna be nice to us, but it's fine.
Yeah.
We could do because we were kind of talking about the singers. We could kind of talk about the singers and Ben Liesh and I in that, just to get that discussion out of the way, because I feel like some of the other characters are gonna like take us forever to get through, and I don't have that much to say about that.
Yeah, that's understood. So I talked to Sammy about this a little bit, kind of bitched into her inbox one time, because it was like, I swear to God, like every time something exciting happens with Kaladin, the next chapter is a Vinley chapter, and it makes me hate her. I hate the Vinley chapters, especially the flashbacks. I mean, I don't hate them. I liked them and how it all came together, but
yeah, I had a hard time with, I think my biggest complaint about this book is some of the pacing issues, and that is incorporated with the Venli Eshonai chapters and the flashbacks, and it's also like how we just don't see much of any consequence for very long from like Adolin and Shallan and that whole party exploring into Shadesmar. It's just, I loved how much time we got to spend with Kaladin and Navani, but it just made me like only want to spend time with them because we were already spending so much time with them. I'm like, I don't care about these other people. Like,
right,
I get it matters for the overarching storyline, but I do think that it was kind of cool, like just Venli's whole internal like monologue that she was experiencing with like the internal debate about like whose side am I on? By the way, I'm Radiant, like not going to tell anybody about it, but also here's all this other stuff. Like she had definitely like had an identity crisis for the majority of the book, which was, it was like fun to see play out. And I did like some of the Eshonai flashbacks because she's already dead as of book 3. So I did enjoy the chapters. But I do definitely relate to what you're saying, where it was hard to like want to be in those chapters because we were already doing, like, there was so much exciting stuff happening everywhere else. But
yes,
it did wrap up really nicely, and I understood why they were there. I just was also like, see, I don't care that much, like, and I get it that like at the end of book 3 we're like, oh hey, by the way, the humans actually were the problems and they caused the first desolation, so we're supposed to feel more for the Parshendi, I think, in this book. But I'm also like, yeah, I still don't care. I love my babies and they get my priority. I do like some of the like singer culture things we got to explore with the gal who you mentioned who was hanging out with Navani and
Raboniel,
Raboniel and all of that. And they have their own like sort of god tier stuff, which was just kind of wild. And then Moash is just there being a turd. But
oh my god, that
so that's
fucking guy, man.
so that's about my the comments I have on those chapters. They were good, and they do, I think, affect and like the storyline wrap up in this book well. But I also was like, they were very jarring to read.
Yeah, I will say though, it made my heart very happy whenever I agree with you, Catherine, that it's not possible to not get attached to the Stormlight characters.
Yeah.
It made my heart super happy when at the end, Dalinar is telling the High Storm, he's like, you need to consider having mercy more often. You don't do that enough. And the High Storm he's like, I showed mercy on someone once. And then the next chapter is Eshonai's, and it was like,
my heart.
Because I loved Eshonai. I loved her. And I was so I was sad whenever she, died in the last book. And to see that she got that kind of peace was like, yay.
Yes.
Loved the Vinley chapters. Felt like for part 3, Shallan and Adolin just yeah, they did. I think it was probably really tricky to juggle
so many characters.
Yeah, there were a lot of storylines happening there. And
we could definitely talk about the Adolin Shallan experience next, but do you have anything else on the Parshendi life while we're here?
I was gonna say that I really appreciated seeing Vinley, who was very accustomed to life as a singer, in parallel with R'Laine, who was very accustomed to life as a singer, but then had developed some compassion for Bridge 4, and how he still has his biases. Like at the end of the book, he's like, I can't trust humans. I can trust Bridge 4, but can't trust humans. So I think the pacing for the Civil War part of it has been very realistic.
Yes, I agree with that.
Oh yeah, okay. Adolin, I love the guy, but he was kind of whiny in the first part, like in his first parts, and then he came around, he was fine. But the finding out what Dalinar did to his mom really fucked him up, as it should have.
Yes, and I did like with Adolin. I did like how he was with Shallan and her personalities, and I like it, which I think was fairly understanding. And I also liked his little budding bromance we started to see with Kaladin. That was just a nice touch at the beginning of the book. And I think his whole journey, just to focus on him because Shallan has a lot to talk about. I think his whole journey into Shadesmar, his whole thing with his shard blade, Maya is how I read it. I've heard it pronounced Maya, and I'm like, Maya is not how you pronounce that, y'all. It's Maya. His whole journey with Maya and the trial was interesting. I didn't feel as much impact as I feel like I should have when I read it. I was just like, well, he's kind of just letting the sword stand up and argue the case, which is I guess cool. And this how the Spren saying that they chose to do this,
chose. I loved that.
Yeah, that was impactful. But I'm also like, Adolin, you didn't stand up for yourself. You could have said more and been more of a character who wasn't just furthering other character storylines, which I kind of think he has been so far, which I'm hoping we get a lot more out of him in the 5th book, and maybe that he is not killed off, but I also don't have high hope for anything. So
yeah, I'm afraid they're all gonna die.
Yeah, so I think his storyline was all right. I wasn't super enthralled either way. He had some nice moments, but also I agree with your whiny sentiment. I just felt like it was not just the first part of the book.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like he was he was still just struggling with his ego a lot, I think. And I considering his background, his upbringing, just like it makes sense for his character, but at the same time it was like, can you please stop bitching about the fact that you're not a Radiant? Like, there are things to be done here.
Yeah, which is why I was like, he had such a during the trial especially, he could have been like, screw all of that, I'm gonna like just stand up for all of that. Was he did do it, but like he could have done it like more strongly, which I would have been more satisfied with in theory.
You know, something. What? Let's see. What seeing his compassion with the three, yes, and then Maya added to his whininess, made him more human. It does. I like. He's such a sweetheart. I feel like the frustration might be that he just didn't stand. You know, like Casey's saying, he didn't really like want to pull out his gusto or anything. But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe one of the reasons that he was not so apt to force his opinion is because of what he knows of Dalinar now versus what he knew before.
Yeah. Which definitely tracks. What him finding out, like you said, about it, what his father did to his mother was darn messy. So yeah, there's definitely, he's probably still processing that throughout a lot of this book. I don't actually know like the amount of time that passes in this like 1,200 page book. I think it's like a week or something.
Dude, I don't even know. Like, it's not a week. They talk about how it, because like they had several weeks after Urithiru was overtaken.
No, it was okay. It was like a month or something. But it's
okay.
Just, I have no concept of time, so
especially not on Roshar.
No,
things are happening too fast there. So, yeah, now might be a good time to talk about Shallan. I think that's kind of all I had. I will say something that I liked that Brandon did was in Vinley's chapter where we're flashing back to how she was reacting to the big battle that happened in like book 3, where Eshonai dies. She
yes,
year from the first ever storm. Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know how long it takes either. But she passes the dead Rashadium, and I was like, no, sad face. That was a nice touch, nice little jab in the ribs.
yeah, jab is more accurate than touch for sure.
Yeah. So Shallan.
Yes. What are your thoughts? I've started a lot of the character conversations. And what are you go first this time?
So my thing with Shallan this time was to me, she spent too much time beating around the bush about confronting these things. And a lot of the problems that she was having with Pattern were communication issues, which she was perpetuating, and that bothered me. I don't like that happening in a book, period. I like to see the characters communicating, and some miscommunication is okay. But she was so determined to stay away from what she did that it just started to feel tedious.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue with that is like she was trying so hard to stay away from that, and then when she finally does like confront this new personality, it's like such a quick turnaround, like a little like she was fighting it for so long, but then it's like, oh yeah, this is also Shallan. Like it was like a rubber band kind of thing where there wasn't like it was stretched out so aggressively, and then it was like such quick reward when you ever like actually confronting with the I forgot what the name of the fourth personality was. Formless. Like if they kind of also stretched Formless just a little bit more and kind of played with the mystery, it would have been more satisfying to understand like what she was going through and why she was hiding from it. But it was like, oh, I'm just struggling, and then it was like, oh, I'm Formless. Yeah, that's cool. Moving on. I'm like, okay, first of all,
especially when we've seen every other personality
be very built out and like,
yeah.
And part of like another issue that I didn't like with the whole Formless personality is she realized we as the reader, and I think Pattern's there, but like Adolin isn't. Like we as the reader realize that yeah, she killed her first friend. This is why she is this way. All these things, but then she doesn't like go tell Adolin, who's on trial, like trying to defend humanity's like use with the Sprens, and like we're not going to kill them. Everything is fine. It was just like it's another communication issue, also.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I liked the beginning with Shalon where it was like the Ghost Bloods and all of that, which is kind of very interesting and all of that. And and the confrontation that what one of her personalities has with Mraize at the end, where it'd be like, can you handle my boss? Can you handle her boss? By the way, Lord of Scars or something is thrown in there. Well, we'll harken back to that in a second. But
yeah,
like
that was all crazy.
There was parts of her journey that were like done well, and then there was parts that were either way too long or way too short. And if the running away part was a little shorter and like dealing with it was like a little longer, it would have been like a lot more balanced in my personal opinion.
I agree with that. To have it have been like a teasing thing for so long, and then
it was like a 1.5 pages of like resolution. I'm like, okay.
Well, so, I will say though, the goodbye to Vale was well done.
Yes, it was.
I loved that. I could see it in my head. It was all very emotional. It was very cathartic. And I loved that. And then I loved that right after that happened, Shalon now gets to deal with Kalek. It was like, perfect. Yes. See, this is what we needed to be doing.
Yeah.
I got a kiddo yelling.
Yeah, Catherine, I agree with what you're saying. She did make me mad with a lot of her hiding, and it is easier to relate to that sometimes. Or like I think that's a very realistic. Okay, first of all, I have no understanding or comprehension of how like the multiple personalities disorder actually works. I know Brandon did like pull from a lot of people and had a lot of heavy edits on her section to make it seem more realistic. So maybe that is a very realistic way to handle having issues in all of this. So but I do agree with you that I both related to her and was mad at the same time about her like hiding. Kat, I just mentioned that I know that Brandon did a lot of heavy edits and got a lot of input from people who understand, so that way he could make sure like he wrote a lot of her multiple personalities disorders correctly and very well fleshed out and all that. So, like, I don't know if there was edits that were taken because it was more realistic that way, or what exactly caused like the great disparity in like the length of time focused on stuff. But it was interesting, and it was. I didn't love how choppy and how overly extended some parts of it were, but here we are.
I'm sorry, I have a child needing a snack.
You're good.
Like pink lemonade.
Okay, but that needs to be washed before you can use it again. All right,
you're good.
I'm going to take the coffee cup.
Hey, Raiden, come here. Try that. Mom book to her life. Do you like that? Would you like some of these for a snack?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And can I have some pink lemonade in here?
Yes. Can you go to the living room and I will bring it to you here in just a second?
Can I this try one too?
Yes. That's fine.
Like
That's
it.
fine. Okay. So, I wondered about those edits as well because Vale was like reabsorbed.
Yes.
So I wondered at that point if that was plot or how that worked. I don't know enough about it, like personality issues. But I was curious about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious about that. I know Brandon, like in one of his live stream signing things, made a really big deal about mentioning that her stuff went through extensive edits from like medical professionals. So I wonder how much of that is like was maybe like took away from some plot because it was more medically accurate, which I do appreciate. I just want to know if that had any effect on the way some of her storyline was projected, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I also am a little intrigued by the fact that Radiant is still there. So, like, she still has this split. And I wondered if that was the... I don't know how to phrase it because I don't want to sound callous. But I wonder if that was, like... I guess the scenario I'm picturing in my head is like, well, we can't just get rid of all the personalities because that's not how personality disorder works. Mm-hmm. So, maybe we still keep this one. I'm like you. I'm curious how that all went down.
Yeah, I think it'll be revealed as like with her character. With her character in the next book and all that. So I think we just have to like wait with Shalon, and I assume that she's going to be built out more. And I really think, honestly, and we'll theorize at the end, but I think she has a higher chance of survival than some of the other characters do. So, so hopefully we have more than just one more book with her. So, but yeah.
Yes. And I am confident that he has done his best to do it well.
Yes, I know he cares about putting those things accurately into his books, and we see that with like Kaladin and things like that. So I imagine it was done as well as physically able. So
stop for a second. I'll keep it still. No, I just need you to let me pour it, please. I really
Catherine is mentioning me that maybe Shalon is going to need Radiance in the next one. So that might be, maybe that'll be why.
Yes, I think lemonade.
I wondered a little bit if it had anything to do with the fact that Radiant is the one who knows how to use a sword. And so maybe like that's the kind of trauma that she's still not quite addressed yet.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting because I know we're approaching battles and things where everyone's going to fight. So
yeah. Oh God, I have so many thoughts right at the same time. So I like the fact that we get to see Yasna in battle. That was good. I like
that was fun.
Why she did it, and that whole like philosophical thing that her and Wit do is really I dig it. I like it.
Do you like that they have like a little like legit relationship going on? That I was like, what?
I was like, but also whenever Dalinar alluded to it, I was like, oh yeah, that's totally what's happening. They're perfect for each other because they're both infuriating.
Yes, they're exactly the same, and I think it was. And Wit deserves love after all. He's lived for how many years? Some large amount of world-topping years.
Find out his name. I was so excited by that. I was like stupidly excited whenever Odium is reading over the contract, and he's like, Cephalindus. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. I guess so. Yasna, like I liked her like appearances in the book just before I transitioned to Odium because like I have a thought about that. But yeah, so Yasna was good. I liked her going into battle. Like I agree with all the things you just said, but Odium or I think it happens decently early in the book, so it shouldn't be a spoiler for you, Catherine. Targaryen, or however the hell you pronounce his name, Taravangian is now Odium. He killed Race, and now he is Odium. wild.
That whole thing going down, I was like, oh
Uh,
no. Now
and
I have no idea what's gonna happen in book 5.
yes.
None.
Yes, exactly. It's absolutely insane, and it threw a lot of people's like conception of what was going to go on out the window. And Taravangian is such an insane villain, and I've loved his like subtle villainy so far. So I'm really excited to see what we get to see out of him as like the major antagonist, where he's just like no longer pretending to kind of still be on people's sides. So
I feel like I made the Professor X and Magneto comparison with Dalinar and Taravangian as well, and I stand by that.
yes, it still goes. It still does.
Oh my god.
But
I can't wait because Dalinar doesn't know. Dalinar doesn't know yet.
no, he doesn't
know yet. And I'm like,
and there was the part with Odium. Yeah, there was the part with Odium, I think. And I don't know if Taravangian was in play yet, but like where Odium can kind of just like kill a bondsmith, but like the spiritual half of it. So that's clearly going to be, I don't really remember exactly when that was mentioned, but that's going to be a deal at some point, I can imagine. And then also I think Odium, again, don't remember if Taravangian was in play yet or not, but where Odium like just removed a section of Wit's memory.
Dude.
What's up?
Dude. That's the epilogue. And I was like, what is happening?
So
he's getting into some Groundhog Day shit. What?
Yeah, so that's gonna be a deal in book 5 for sure.
No, I hate it. I hate it.
Yes, that is a thing. But that's about all. I don't feel like we got much out of Odium besides that, and I'll leave Catherine some mystery by not going too far into that rabbit hole. But yeah.
Yeah, so that was a thing. And I was a little bit annoyed that like I know that they didn't have time for it. Like there wasn't a way for it to have been built in. But I really wish that Yasna and Shallan were talking more, because Yasna is her mentor and Shallan is greatly influenced by her, even though she doesn't like that she's greatly influenced by her. And I just wanted to see a little bit more of that relationship. And of course, we don't have time for it in this book. So I'm hoping for some in book 5, but then it's like, oh man, I don't know. Yeah,
oh no. That'll be fun. You're almost there probably. It'll be great. We'll stop talking about that now. Anywho, Taravangian is awesomely insane. And I say awesome because he's a great villain, but
oh my gosh, that guy.
I think the character, because I don't honestly think there's much to talk about Dalinar in this book. He kind of goes on his thing. Dalinar's out of the picture. He doesn't know a lot of what's going on.
Ishar makes me nervous because of what he almost did with Dalinar.
Yes.
That was disconcerting. Like, I don't like that that's a thing.
I don't either. It's crazy, but I think the next character that I think we should talk about that will get us connected to a lot of the other characters would be Kaladin.
Because she is released. She completes her thing with Yasna, but I just wish that it would have been played on a little bit more. And hang on just a second, and because I'm being called for, and then you go ahead and introduce the next thing.
Okay, yeah. So yes, Catherine, Shallan was officially released, but I know her character still very much is like wanting feedback and like mentorship in some variety from Yasna. And I know that when she was officially released from tutelage, that Yasna also kind of just like didn't treat her super well after that, and there just wasn't any communication. But Shallan, with all of her other issues was still like looking for validation and support from Yasna, which they didn't really get very much of. So
yeah. So Kaladin, can we talk about Kaladin?
yes, because I think he's going to get us to the rest of the drama in the book because everybody else is connected to him. So I think the first thing I want to tell him about is that his dad.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry.
You're good.
The dog's being a jerk.
You are good. The first thing was with Kaladin is that his dad wasn't really considering like some of his mental health issues like very seriously and just wasn't like supporting him. And it did just totally break my heart when Kaladin was kicked out of Bridge 4 for like military reasons because he was too unstable and kept freezing in fights and all of that. So that hurt my heart. lots hurt my heart. Yeah, but
I mean, I agree with you there. I was really mad at Dalinar for that at the beginning. It was like, man, you can't do that. But it opened him up to be able to actually explore the mental health side of things a little bit. And I like that we get to see that Roshar is sort of on a similar journey to the way Earth has operated with mental health. And that includes the point that you made about Liren, which I'm glad you brought it up because I know that I have some close friends who suffer from a mental condition somewhere, bipolar disorder or depression, and their parents didn't pick up on it or address it really whenever they were younger because it didn't exist. Like it wasn't a thing that parents paid attention to at that point in time. So
yeah, LOL to that one. But I agree with you on your second point, Catherine, where if Dalinar did not force him out, he would not have stepped back, and therefore he would have continued to have all these issues. It just still hurt as a reader.
Mm-hmm.
And
it hurt for him, and especially with Bridge 4 separating out like they did, which I think we need to talk about Bridge 4.
Oh, yes. I figured Kaladin would get us there.
yes, he will. I have feelings, I have thoughts.
Well, I guess so. Yeah, I did. After Kaladin does leave, he goes and works with his father, and he ends up like visiting the people in the soft ward, so to speak, where they're just like kept in darkness because they're crazy. And then he's like, no, we're gonna like have therapy, and he like invents the concept of therapy, which is super fun.
And then refuses to go.
Yeah.
That's so Kaladin.
It is a very Kaladin way to exist. But I mean, he does eventually go talk about his issues. It just takes him some time, I think. And basically, whenever he does separate out, Teft is like, hey, I kind of need to retire. I'm super old. So he goes and hangs out with him and helps out, I believe, around the medical shop.
Yes, that was so sweet.
Yeah,
I loved that.
Yeah.
Their whole dynamic, my God.
And before we get too far down that rabbit hole, we can kind of focus back to the rest of Bridge 4 because that'll be it.
That's a whole set of spoilers.
Yeah, so
the whole thing.
I was very sad when Rock was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go face my punishment now," and like just leaves. I was like, "Rock, how dare you!"
And then he doesn't come back in the fourth book after that. I'm so mad. It kept getting to these parts where it was like, "Oh, Bridge 4 perspective. We're gonna get to see what happens to Rock now." No. Damn it.
Yeah. I do think it's honorable that he chose to do that because it was based on his role and his family, like an illegal action, and he chose to do it to protect Kaladin anyways, which obviously is so fun and so awesome. But like, it's still, I'm like, why didn't you come back?
So a general theme in this book was respecting the fact that other people are allowed to sacrifice themselves too.
Yes.
And that was something that Kaladin had a real hard time with. And that little flashback with Tien.
We're not there yet.
I just I can't.
Yes.
Lay down and quit fussing. Cal's dad not accepting it is more along the lines of we don't admit it to our kids for, especially in Rashar, where mental health means a dark room. Yeah, that's
In
valid.
isolation. Yeah, you are correct. So yeah, I did like that. So basically, progressing forward after. Wait, is there anyone else in Bridgeport? We don't really get a whole lot of Lopin in this book, but he had a few comic relief moments in the Bridgeport chapters.
I
I
missed
don't.
him in this book.
Yeah, luckily he does have a whole large plot line in Dawn Shard, so that's.
Yeah.
Was there any other members of Bridgeport besides Teft?
I
that we
liked
needed?
I mean, of course, we've already talked about Relaine, but I liked that we got to see Sigil sort of getting out on his own a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it seemed like while he was with Dalinar, he was developing more, whereas whenever he was around Bridgeport, he just sort of felt like the accountant for the most part.
Which is a very important role, which we do discover in Mistborn Era 1 and in and in this book. But yes, so yeah, I did like that we got to see like kind of people branching out and like developing as their own individual characters, which was obviously fun. But I think before we get officially to the
David.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh my god. Like his whole thing, I loved that. I loved every minute of that. I loved how Bridgeport reacted to the fact that he had just chosen not to speak. And it was well done. Very well done.
Yes. David was very cool. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the tower spren chose him to speak through and all these things, it's like, yeah. Great. I half expected him to get the tower spren because
it was
she had chosen him.
He was gonna actually get the tower spren. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a very good plot line. I liked that we get to see the fact that he has a lot of reverence towards Kaladin, but also just considers him a friend because they're Bridgeport.
Yes.
It's really great.
Yeah. So yeah, I think moving forward, the first thing I'll say before we like really get into Teft, the end of the book, the flashback with Tien and all that, is I didn't really feel like good old Rhythm of War here at a Sanderlanche. I feel like the entire second half of the book was like a Sanderlanche. It just was like slowly increasing in tension. But I didn't really get like the battle sequence is here. We're gonna have the Sanderlanche for like the last 100 pages. I felt like the second the page like 600 through the end was kind of like a slower Sanderlanche. Like it still was there. It just wasn't as aggressive in my personal opinion. But
I agree. Sammy and I kind of talked about that a little bit too, about how that was one thing that she told me after she finished. She was like, I didn't feel like it really had a Sanderlanche. And I was like, well, that's weird. Hey, stop.
I think it did. It just was like so much more extended that it was harder to like. It didn't feel as aggressive, but I was still like flipping through the pages as fast as humanly possible because that's how I am as a person. But I will say that whenever the stuff kind of starts to escalate in the tower, probably around like 3/4 of the way through the book, where the battles start happening and Kaladin is starting to like hide and run. It was kind of basically a Sanderlanche. Exactly, Catherine. I did not really find that I had a slow part. So it was just very. I enjoyed. It was
kind of intense all the way through. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole like second half of the book, I'm just like it was just getting like a period like iteratively more intense. But I think whenever Kaladin started having to do the hiding and Navani was trying to communicate through the tower to find him, to tell him to go find these things, Teft was involved. Lots of things started happening. All of the different battle sequences. Moshe was there at certain points, and then a few of the other like fused are hunting him, or singers are hunting him. It was just very intense. So, shall we talk about Teft and cry a little bit?
Oh my god, I was devastated.
I think I
I
did
had to
actually
put
cry.
the book down for a second because it was like that did not just happen.
Yes.
I was so mad. And like Moash, man, oh my god, dude. No.
Yeah. I think I did actually cry, and I also had to like stand up and like walk around and just be like, and I had to like read it like 3 times to make sure it actually happened, because I was like, what if I was reading too fast and like misread something? And so I went back and read it a few times, but I think this was after Lift was already captured and like hurt really badly, and Moshe is
She
just running
ended up
around trying to kind of draw Kaladin to him in a revengeful state because he wants to go and attempt to kill Kaladin. And so of course he like goes after Teft and
Well, so it
kills
wasn't
him,
that
and
he
it's
wanted to go kill Kaladin. It was that he tried to find a way to get Kaladin to commit suicide.
yes, that is it. And I think the
Because
part was
his logic was kind of like, if I can just take away all the people that he loves and I can make it to where he feels like he can't protect somebody and I can play on that, then he'll do it for me and then I don't have to do it.
yeah, and I think the thing that really hurt me about Teft's death is that they also, with that fancy newly created sword, Fabrial like killed his spren, or they killed his spren and then they killed him. I don't really remember the order. It was brutal, which is like makes
And
me
he
fear
had
the next book.
he had just come to terms with himself.
Yes, yeah. He had like been working through his alcoholism and addiction issues, and was just like actually being like, I am content where I'm at, and it just
it's
and
okay
it was,
if I fall because I'm gonna fight again. Like,
mm-hmm.
And then Brandon Sanderson makes it very clear that he has, as like they all have close relationships with their sprins, right? But his sprin pursued him despite his faults.
Yeah.
And was that much more special to him because of that. And I bawled, dude. I was so sad and mad. I was so mad. God, I hate
you were smad. You were smad.
I was. And then Kaladin's reaction when he finally found Teft, that was the thing that did me in. It was like, no. And then they made him into a statue. It was like, my heart, killing me.
I don't really remember where, like, so I remember that Kaladin found him, but I don't really remember how we got from there to him like doing the falling event. I assume he got like pushed off the building by one of the people that was hunting him, or did
Moash threw Liren off the tower?
Yes, okay. And Kaladin, I think
his powers didn't work, so he just threw himself off too.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Moash again is the worst. But yeah, so I will say I hate him so much. He is horrible. He is the worst. I did love though, like in the falling, he was able to say the fourth ideal, and like Liren's whole like reaction at the very end when Kaladin like saves his life, like, you got it real close there, son. I'm like, yay! I'm like, you are the worst. You're not the worst, Liren. Moash is the worst, but like, you've had a few rough moments in this book with like not supporting your son and all that. So
I think that like he was not my favorite for it, but his reaction and the reasons why he reacted the way that he did were very understandable, because you know, he lost Tien, and then he also lost Kaladin, and he has one more son, and he thinks he can just, you know, if he can just get away from this, if he can just make this go away and get somewhere safe, then he can save this new baby that they have. And it was all like, oh my God. And I loved how Hasina called him out too. She was like, no, fuck you. Look at this. He's doing something. Like, you're not being cool.
Yeah, that was good. Kaladin's mom. Woohoo.
Mhm.
No, yeah. So I think it's in the Falling. He has the flashback, correct?
Yeah. And I don't know, and it's just like, it is a flashback, but it's also a vision. And I think it's a vision.
It's a vision from the Stormfather because he was able to reach through like the, if I remember,
because like, so Dalinar, right before he gives him the vision, he's like, I'm the storm. I can see into Shadesmar. I can see into this other place. There's a light there. What is that? And then he throws Kaladin in. And then they allude to an afterlife again with Eshonai whenever we see her passing. So part of me thinks that Dalinar's bondsmith thing can sort of reach into this afterlife, which he still believes in. It's worth noting. He still has faith that that's there. And I think he was able to pull Tien's spirit in a way so that they could get closure. And that was when I cried the hardest.
Yeah, that I felt that in my soul. I almost said heart and soul. That's one word. My soul and my heart. Yeah, that was. I don't remember exactly what Tien said, but it was something along the lines of, and I think Catherine already mentioned it, about like letting other people sacrifice for him, and like that's okay. You don't have to protect everybody. Something along those sentiments. And Kaladin's like, okay, if you insist. Here's my fourth idea.
Yeah. It was Kaladin realizing that Tien chose to be there because if he wasn't there, then all those other kids would have been scared. And he was being a hero too, because Kaladin was always a hero for him. But Kaladin felt like Tien was always his hero. And so it was this very... I'm getting a little bit teary-eyed. It was so good, though. It was so good. And I really loved it. I liked getting to see Kaladin grow that way and to kind of put that to rest.
Yeah, that was very well done. Then he saved his dad. They saved the tower because the tower bonded with Navani. Oh, this book was a lot, y'all. But
yes, it was a lot.
real quick. Cosmere implications. Kelsier's still freaking alive. What the heck? Well, he's the Lord of Scars, dude.
What? No.
Yes, he is. He's Shadakar, something like that. I forgot. Thydakar is his name. You didn't catch that?
What the fuck? No.
Okay, well, have you read the Mistborn Secret History yet?
No.
Okay, well, you should go do that. But yes.
Damn it.
Well, that wasn't really a spoiler. You could have been able to reach that conclusion after just like the Lord of Scars part. You just figure out more about why he's
had a lot of hope that he was still around somehow, even at the end of Mistborn, but I didn't catch that there was anything about him in this.
Oh, okay. First, so yes, the leader of the Ghost Bloods is Thydakar, also known as the Lord of Scars.
See, but Thydakar though, like, how is that Kelsier? I don't understand.
So basically the Lord of Scars implication is like, oh, maybe that's Kelsier. You'll understand how, like, his existence. If you go and read Mistborn Secret History, and it's very, very good. But also, I know that Brandon Sanderson has been quoted saying like, oh yeah, if Kelsier was still alive, he'd definitely be the leader of the Ghost Bloods or something like that.
Oh god.
And
that's crazy.
And also, like, I think Kelsier is one of those characters that, like, if you stay alive long enough, he's gonna end up a villain. So I'm really excited to see like what that looks like for him. Anyways, also there's a reference at one point to the White Sands, which I haven't read that graphic novel series. It's the only thing in the comics that I haven't read, but I think that's gonna be a Cosmere implication.
See, I kind of wondered about that a little bit too, especially whenever they started talking about black sands and white sands and using that to show where springs were.
Yes, that is a thing. I am going to. They just never have the first one at my bookstore, so I've told them they should try and get the first one. But I'm not going to buy it like by special ordering it. It needs to be there when I show up. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
So,
I don't know if there was what else was there. There was more implications.
So there was the implications with wit and like what odium could do to him, and I didn't quite understand whether or not that was odium or if that was odium Teravangian.
I think if odium was already Teravangian, then it's Teravangian odium. We'll see if I can.
It seemed like maybe they were. I don't know. He was talking to him like he was raised. I don't know. There was a lot to that I didn't quite get.
I'm re-perusing real quick.
Let's see. There were a lot of other implications, though. They set everything up to go after Ishar. Oh yeah, and Kaladin is going to be trying to, which is what I said that I hoped that that's what would happen if he went into mental health, was that he would act as sort of like a therapist and some help to the heralds. And so I do have some kind of high hopes there that hopefully they'll, I don't know, be
okay, sorry. This the breast is a reference to Warbreaker, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the investiture that Odium destroys, I believe, with parts of his memories, because Wit put his memories in the magic system in that world. So also read that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just so but I'm pretty sure, like, I know he's acting like race, but at this point Odium is not, his like physical manifestation is not race, it's Teravangian, so I'd assume it's Teravangian.
Okay. I wondered if it was Teravangian or if it was just Odium's like spring self kind of thing, like the fragment itself.
I can't really tell for sure, but it's he's mentioning the stuff that he discusses as Teravangian with Odium, so I'm assuming it's Teravangian, but
interesting. Which is bad news, because that means Teravangian is not going to do what cultivation wanted him to do. Damn it. It's too stressful.
Yeah, so I think that's about all, like, officially on the book. A few little just like overall end thoughts I have in terms of like what's coming next. I don't think the next book's gonna be nice to any. Oh yes.
Hold on. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay.
I'm so glad.
Still around. Yes. That was what I was talking about earlier when I said that I was flipping through. I flipped through Mistborn and I saw that Kelsier died, and I literally was like, I don't even fucking want to read this book. Like. I don't want to do this at all. That's
stupid. Why I said we'll come back to that conversation. I can't believe you didn't connect that.
No, I didn't. That's fun though.
Might be, but like Tisby Kelsier, so it's exciting. So I think we're gonna kill off a majority of the characters, which is just gonna like break my heart into pieces in the next book. But I actually watched one of the podcast YouTube videos from the 17th Shard, and it's the one that Daniel Green is on. And they all kind of go into their theories for the next book. And all of the theories are really wild. I feel like Sanderson's going to take us like real south, though. So I think like most of our main cast is not going to be there, which is going to make me so sad. But
the thing is, though, is he going to do that? Because he's like, yeah, I think the vision with Tien was a really big take this comfort now before things get really bad, because Tien's like, we've got this afterlife, and Dalinar kind of saw into that, and so we see that this is a thing that Sanderson's going to play with, and especially if Kelsier is not actually dead, he might just take like kill everybody and then be like, okay, Stormlight Archive, next 5 books is going to be about what happens in the afterlife.
So yeah, there's just a lot of unknowns. I think Shallan has a good chance of being alive just because she hasn't really had that big of a part in the first book, and she really is coming into her power and like into self-control, and I'm excited to see where she's going to be in the next book. But I think she has a lot of story left to tell, so I think she might still be alive in the second after the end of book 5. But I don't know. I would love Kaladin to be, because he's just like a fan favorite generally, and also I love him, and also he just has gone through so much. But at the same time,
he stands to be someone who gets kind of elevated to godhood, though, because like we saw Vin do that. In
that is true.
1, and then Sazed, we heard from Sazed in this book. Like he was writing to people in this book, so
yes, exactly.
So even if maybe I think Kaladin probably stands to sort of climb that ladder by a lot.
That would actually be very interesting. I didn't think about that. See, I forgot about Sazed's implications in this book, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, that whole thing! I'm determined to go back and read just the epigraphs, like from start to finish, because I'm convinced that I'll find something. Oh, Relaine, and he got a spren from friggin' Renarin.
Oh, yes!
Yes! And then they started calling Renarin the son of thorns, and I'm like, what is this? Like, it's clearly a reference to Blackthorn, right? But, what is it? What's it gonna be? Because we still don't completely understand what Renarin can do.
Oh no, yeah, Renarin has a lot left in his journey. Oh, this book was awesome though. I loved it.
It was so good. It was so good, and to see Relaine get a spren at the end, I was very happy about that.
Very satisfying, yes.
I can't think of any other big picture things except that we haven't collected all the heralds yet. Oh, they're going to be going into Shinovar in book 5, is what it sounds like.
Yes,
because
that would be exciting.
Seth's dad is dead now, and he's pissed off about that. And Dalinar was talking to Kaladin about, him maybe needing to go to Shinovar or somewhere so that he could help this Ishar dude.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a lot of crazy stuff coming. I really need Dalinar to realize that Taravangian is also Odium. That's like the biggest. I'm like, come on.
That was the thing at the end of the book for me too. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, so that'll.
Taravangian's Odium, but Dalinar doesn't know. But you know what?
Revelation. Mm-hmm.
Cultivation also gave Dalinar his stuff. And then that was maybe sort of overridden by Stormfather stuff. So I wonder how much Cultivation has planned for. I wonder if she's planned Dalinar and Taravangian being the two that, because I suspect too that the 5th book is going to be like, okay, we're picking up on 3 days before the friggin' champion tournament.
Yeah, there's a lot coming, but yeah. Well, that's all I have, and I need to pee real bad, so I might let you go. But thank you for hanging out with Catherine, and I'm excited to read the Mistborn Era 2 stuff with y'all because I want to read it again. I listened to the audiobooks, but I have the physical books now, so I might read those.
Sammy bought me the physical books, and I can't wait to take them off my shelf. And I am so I'm seriously excited. Cannot overstate the fact that I'm glad I don't have any more 1,000-page books right now. Like,
oh, I'm about to get myself back into the Wheel of Time, so ripperoni to that one.
Alrighty, well, this was fun. Mistborn Era 2 starting this week, and we will see everybody for the next Cosmere discussion.
Bye, you guys. Bye, Catherine.